welcome back to the channel. Today it's another mastering start to finish video. This will be a little bit different compared to the other ones I've done because the mix here is already very loud, so we're looking to see what we can do to enhance this mix without loudness being the primary goal. The end master is still going to end up super loud. As you'll see, it's a pop mix, so it needs that sort of loudness and upfront sound. I also want to say we've just started the next community remix contest. As usual, there's loads of prizes to be won. It's going to be a remix competition for this song that I'm mastering. If you want to join that, all the information is in the description box down below. But without further delay, let's get right into the video. I'm going to skip past a lot of the file management and setup because I've shown that in my other start to finish mastering videos. I just want to get straight into the processing, but I just want to talk quickly about some of the equipment I'm using. So I'm monitoring on a set of PSI A23Ms. I'm using a Lynx Hilo audio interface, and you'll just be listening to the output of that. And at times I'm also going to be using some Beyerdynamic DT900 Pro headphones. So the song is called All My Fault, and it's produced by Nezzy, who is one of the previous remix winners. Since then, he's also gone from strength to strength. I've taken a good listen to it, but we're going to start by just letting you take a listen to the verse, sort of pre-chorus, and the chorus. It's an electronic pop song. Let's take a listen.
I know you said you don't need an apology, but thought I'd ask you how you're feeling now. It's been a while, but honestly, there's part of me that hopes you don't mind that I'm reaching out. Truth be told, if you said just go, I'd be gone for good in a minute. But if you think at all there could be some peace, I'll say what I'm feeling. Truth be told, it was all my fault. It was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry. It was all my fault, and I can say now that I done that. It was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry.
I noted a few easy things to fix. There's some rumble in the low end, it's clipping a little bit too loud, but overall I really like the sound of it, but there are a few things I'd like to change. Really easy stuff. There was this click at the start. This often happens with misbehaving plugins. You've just got to watch out for stuff like this. I've already set the tempo. We're just going to make sure that the song is actually in time with the tempo. This makes it much easier for people to remix and work with later.
I'm reaching out.
I'm also just adding fades at the start. This is just like my other mastering videos, just a very quick fade up and down. People often ask, what's the industry standard for the fade at the end of a song? I think it's just what feels right. Some songs need a slow, gentle fade. Others, just let the reverb tail out naturally and then just cut it at the end. With that done, we can get on to the first part of the processing, which is just giving ourselves some headroom. I know people always talk about headroom, maybe 3 dB, 6 dB. The reality is we just need a little bit of headroom. If I start applying EQ, any additive processing, it's just going to start clipping more and more. And I don't mean clipping as in using a soft clipper or a nice sounding effect. I just mean harsh digital clipping. When this goes out there into the world on different playback systems, it could just have these awful clicks, pops, and distortions all over the place. To achieve this, I'm just going to use a simple gain plugin. All DAWs will have some sort of utility like this, and just give myself a couple of dB of gain. And to quickly check this in the chorus, if I just check here, I've just given myself a little bit more true peak headroom to work with so that I can start adding some processing without further clipping it. Going back to the chorus, but I'll keep the volume down. If we look at this Span Analyzer, which is a free plugin, definitely go grab it. It's brilliant. And there's no like sign up or anything. You just download it and run it on your computer. Below 20 Hz, there's a little bit of rumble here. It's not as bad as it looks. To clean this up, I'm just going to use Pro Q3, which is an equalizer. Let's take a listen. So I'm just going to add a high pass filter. I'm going to set it to around somewhere between 15 and 20 Hz, 18 dB per octave. So you can notice already, we've already started eating up some of our headroom. We had 2 dB of headroom, and just adding a high pass has already increased the volume, and that's why we had to give ourselves some headroom. I might actually go back and just give ourselves a little bit more headroom because clearly that wasn't enough. A note on phase, lots of people go for linear phase, that's fine. I've actually found I sometimes prefer the sound of the natural phase mode, especially because you don't have to deal with any or much pre-ringing artifacts, which can often be much more devastating to a master than shifting the phase a little bit. But always just do what you think sounds right. So that's really simple stuff. Let's get on to something a little bit more exciting. The next step is adding a lot more character to this mix, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to use this analog styled compressor, and usually I would use this to try and chop down the transients a little bit to try and get some more loudness so that when the mix hits that final limiter, that limiter is not going to have to work so hard. The reality is this mix is already very loud, so I'm not that interested in the transients here. I'm going to pull the threshold all the way down until we're sort of compressing based on the average of the material. We're going to try to use this to create a little bit more energy in the mix. I'm going to turn the clipper on and the preamp on, so you'll hear a lot more saturation. And I'm going to increase the sidechain filter so that we're not compressing based on that bass or that kick drum as much as just the overall energy of the mix. So let's take a listen, and I'll try to annotate on the screen what I'm doing and why.
Truth be told, if you said just go, I'd be gone for good in a minute. But if you think at all there could be some peace, I'll say what I'm feeling. Truth be told, if you said just go, I'd be gone for good in a minute. But if you think at all there could be some peace, I'll say what I'm feeling. It was all my fault.
So already things are sounding better. The artists have asked me to try and make this sound very cohesive and glued. I'm going to show you how important the attack and release are, because this is the thing that I find is the hardest thing to get right with the compression. It's easier when you've got a great monitoring system. On these monitors I have, you can hear when you've got it wrong right away. If I have a fast attack and a slow release, notice how the kick drums and the snares are just being forced under the mix and everything starts sounding very mushy because the compressor can't recover. Let's take a listen.
Truth be told, if you said just go, I'd be gone for good in a minute. But if you think at all there could...
It sort of sounds like you've gutted the mix a little bit. Now I'm going to increase that attack time, or make it longer, I should say, allowing those transients through. Speed up the release time, letting the compressor recover. Take a listen.
Truth be told, if you said just go, I'd be gone for good in a minute. But if you think at all...
We'll do a quick before and after so that you can hear the effects of the preamp and also the clipping as well, just so the compressor before and after.
Truth be told, if you said just go, I'd be gone for good in a minute. But if you think at all there could be some peace, I'll say what I'm feeling. Truth be told, if you said just go, I'd be gone for good in a minute. But if you think at all there could be some peace, I'll say what I'm feeling. It was all my fault.
So it's quite a dramatic change, but I've also noticed that we've increased some of the sort of sharpness or sibilance. So I'm going to want to go back to that EQ and fix that later. The next thing I'm going to do is add a little bit more sort of shaping EQ. So the Pro Q3 is excellent as a surgical EQ, but I prefer, again, analog modeled EQs just to boost a little bit, give it a little bit more sparkle. And to achieve this, I'm going to choose one of my favorite mastering equalizers, which is, again, the sort of Ivory 5 one from Acoustica. I'm going to put it into mid-side mode, link the channels, and I think I'll keep the preamp off because I think we've actually got enough saturation here. This looks a bit confusing, but there's 4 bands, which you can see vertically. I'll just select, say, this upper mid band, turn the band on, select a frequency, the amount you want to boost and cut, and then that's your Q factor or the bandwidth of the filter. So because we're mastering and we're boosting, I'm going to keep the bandwidth quite wide. I don't really want to do any sort of sharp, steep boosts like this. We're going to keep a nice wide bandwidth, and I should probably explain why I've even bothered to load an EQ at all. What am I hearing? Well, the mix has a brilliant low end, in my opinion at least, and I don't think it needs any more treble, like fizzy top end, but I have noticed that the vocals, I would like them to cut through just a little bit more. Compared to the references we have, their vocals were so upfront and in your face, whereas in this, especially in this pre-chorus, I'm just noticing the vocals, they sound a little bit behind the mix. Let's take a listen.
Truth be told, if you said just go, I'd be gone for good in a minute. But if you think at all there could be some peace, I'll say what I'm feeling. Truth be told, if you said just go, I'd be gone.
So this is just me pushing it to the extremes.
But if you think at all there could be some peace, I'll say what I'm feeling. It was all my fault.
So let's turn this on and off.
It was all my fault. Can say now that I done that. It was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry. It was all my fault.
So this is sounding excellent. It's in mid-side mode, so it's boosting the mid and the sides together. I might turn this side channel off. I do like the extra width that gives it, but it might just be getting a little bit too fizzy. So I like where this is going, but I'm going to switch over to the headphones because I think I'm just adding a little bit too much sibilance now, and we're going to take a listen to that.
Now that I'm sorry, it was all my fault. Can say now that as one that it was.
Right between, it's at 8.3 kilohertz. It's that say and sorry, it's just cutting through too much. So if I just increase this, get those all open, what I'm going to do is reduce this here. Nice high Q factor.
Can say now that as one that it was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry.
So I've just honed in on those frequencies. I'm trying to get this to trigger only when he says those words and nothing else, which is why I'm adjusting this threshold here.
Hey, now that I'm sorry, it was all my fault. Can say now that as one that it was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry, it was all my fault.
Oh, I love it when a plan comes together. That actually worked first time. Just with these settings here, I do really like FabFilter. It is excellent to dial things in. If you're looking for a free dynamic EQ, definitely check out TDR Nova. It's also brilliant. If you learn how to use it, it can be just as fluid as something like this. So I'm just pulling up all the effects so far. The reason for this is just to sort of remind everyone that, mastering is a chain of events, and sometimes you set something and it's perfect, other times you do further processing and you have to go back and adjust something just because of the way things feed into the next process. You have to consider the whole thing as a chain. Initially I didn't think I'd have to do any other work with this EQ, but now that I've cleaned it up here, or maybe clean's the wrong word, I've made it a little bit more smooth, just selecting the exact frequencies we wanted, it means that these other processors can work much better without causing issues. You could use a resonance suppressor for this. I've had okay results with them in the past, but I like just finding the exact sort of frequencies I want to target and doing it myself where possible. So I'm going to go back to the monitors now, and we're going to do a little bit more processing to finish this up. So the last step is to apply our final limiting. I have two choices here. I've got Pro L2, which is excellent, and the Ozone Maximizer, which I tend to lean towards. I've just been using it for longer. I tend to sort of know it a little bit better, but we're going to try both, and we're just going to see if we can get this loudness up to where the client wants it to be. And for this, we're just going to the loudest part of the song. So I'm just going to loop around here.
It was all my fault. Can say now that as one that it was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry. It was all my fault. Can say now that as one that it was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry.
It's not adding any more texture or any more sort of energy to the mix, but it's just doing an excellent job of keeping things really punchy whilst getting it loud. And like I said already, this is a very loud mix. I'm going to quickly go over to the maximizer just to see what results we get, and then we'll do a before and after of the entire processing chain. Let's take a listen.
Hey, now that I'm sorry, it was all my fault. Can say now that as one that it was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry. It was all my fault. Can say now that as one that it was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry.
You can hear that this one definitely has more tone and texture than the FabFilter, and what I'd probably do actually is sort of print both of them, maybe take an hour away and then just come back to them, A/B compare them and see which one I preferred, and then I'd go and send that off to the client. But what I want to do is show you before and after of the whole chain, and for this I'm going to use a plugin called Perception AB. It's brilliant. It just gain matches before and after all the processing. There's a lot of complicated ways to use this plugin, but I'm just going to sort of set it up and we can hear a before and after at the same loudness, or the same perceived loudness.
Hey, now that I'm sorry, it was all my fault. Can say now that as one that it was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry. It was all my fault. It was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry.
I'm going to go to the pre-chorus as well, because it's important to check out other parts of the song, of course. So let's take a listen there.
Truth be told, if you said just go, I'd be gone for good in a minute. But if you think at all there could be some peace, I'll say what I'm feeling. Truth be told, if you said just go, I'd be gone for good in a minute. But if you think at all there could be some peace, I'll say what I'm feeling. It was all my fault.
That was a comparison at the same perceived loudness. Let's just compare with no loudness matching, so just before and after.
It was all my fault. It was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry. It was all my fault. It was all my fault. It was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry. It was all my fault. It was all my fault, and I can say now that I'm sorry.
So I think it's fair to say we've got a much more upfront sound. To be honest, both of them sounded good. You could make a case for the mix, you can make a case for the master. It really depends what the client wants and compared to the references they've provided. So what I do at this point is just export it like I've shown in all the other videos. I'm not going to go into all the file types here. You know, if they want a dithered 16-bit version, I'll do that for them. Whatever they need, I'll provide all those files. That's kind of the boring part of it. And then I'll see what feedback they have. But before I do that, once I've exported it, I will listen from start to finish at different volumes, but also I'll go listen in the car on a pair of headphones just to check it out and see that it sounds good in all of these different places. So I'm pretty happy with that, and I hope this was sort of making a case for sometimes you can do quite a lot with just a little bit of processing in mastering if you have the right sort of listening environment where you can hear what those subtle changes make. It's very easy to mess things up by doing too much processing, and you can sort of lose track of what you're even trying to achieve at all. So I just wanted to remind one last time that remix contest that's on. You can download all the stems for this track and make a remix. You get the vocals, bass, drums, everything, and all of that's going on our free Discord server. All the information for that is in the description down below. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.